On July 3, 1973, David Bowie walked off stage at the height of Ziggy Stardust's fame, ending everything the world wanted him to continue. The accepted story says he vanished into decline or mystery, but what really happened was far more deliberate. Bowie made disappearance itself an art form. How and why does an icon refuse to be defined by staying visible? The answer reveals an entirely different blueprint for legacy. July 3, 1973. Hammersmith Odeon is packed, anticipation thick in the air. The crowd, many dressed in Ziggy's image with roostered hair, glitter, and platform boots, waits for the final notes of the tour. Bowie stands beneath the lights with the spiders from Mars beside him, and he says that it is not only the last show of the tour, but it is the last show that they will ever do. For a moment, the room freezes. Fans, press, even his own band are caught off guard. Some think it is a stunt. Others look stunned, mouths open, unsure what they have just witnessed. The announcement is not just the end of a concert. It is the public execution of Ziggy Stardust at the height of his power. In the months leading up to that night, Ziggy had become more than a character. The persona had overtaken Bowie's own identity, drawing crowds that treated every show like a pilgrimage. The music was everywhere, on radio, on television, in bedrooms, wallpapered with his face. But for Bowie, the weight of Ziggy's fame threatened to harden into a cage. He later described those years as a blur, the boundaries between himself and the character dissolving until he felt the risk of being trapped by his own creation. The decision to end Ziggy was not shared with the world or even the band until that moment on stage. The shock rippled instantly. Guitarist Mick Ronson, standing just feet away, learned of the breakup with the rest of the audience. The press scrambled to make sense of it, and fans left the Odeon in disbelief, clutching ticket stubs from what would become a historic night. Bowie offered no explanations. He simply walked off, leaving the myth behind. This was not a collapse. It was an act of authorship and control. Bowie chose to disappoint, to cut off the supply of what everyone wanted, because control mattered more than applause. The end of Ziggy Stardust set a precedent, a willingness to walk away even at the peak, rather than let the culture define the terms. That single act would echo across the rest of his career. After Ziggy's dramatic exit, Bowie faced the mounting cost of reinvention. The mid-1970s became a blur of albums and personas, each more demanding than the last. The pressure came from every direction, fans expecting the next transformation, record executives chasing another hit, and a culture eager to project its fantasies onto him. Behind the scenes, his life unraveled. Substance use became routine, blurring days into nights and turning success into paranoia. Bowie later recalled those years as a fog, barely able to separate the man from the myth he had built. By 1976, escape felt like the only option. Bowie left Los Angeles for West Berlin, seeking anonymity in a city divided by history and politics. Berlin offered a kind of invisibility. He walked its streets unnoticed, finding solace in the city's faded grandeur. In Spartan Studios, he worked with Brian Eno and Tony Visconti, stripping his music down to essentials. The Berlin trilogy, Low, Heroes, and Lodger, marked a deliberate break from spectacle. These albums were experimental, disciplined, and deeply personal. Berlin was not a retreat, it was a recovery ward where music became a means of survival rather than performance. The 1980s brought a different trap. Let's Dance, released in 1983, launched Bowie into global superstardom. Its polished sound and relentless exposure on MT5 made him a household name. Fame, once a tool, became a cage. Bowie's image was everywhere, on screens, in stadiums, on magazine covers. Yet he grew uneasy with how easily he was consumed as a fixed icon. The more visible he became, the more he recoiled from being frozen in place, a product endlessly replicated. By 1989, Bowie refused nostalgia and commercial comfort. He formed Tin Machine, a noisy, democratic band with Reeves Gabrels and the Sales Brothers. No longer the untouchable star, he became just another member, rejecting the safety of solo legend. Critics were baffled, fans divided. But for Bowie, it was a necessary act of self-erasure, a way to dismantle the icon and resist the gravitational pull of his own past. Each era brought exhaustion, isolation, and misunderstanding. Yet Bowie never allowed himself to become a monument. Reinvention was costly, but stasis was unthinkable. On a humid June night in 2004, David Bowie took the stage at Prague's O2 Arena, deep into the reality tour. The set was running as planned until partway through, Bowie stepped back, a hand pressed to his chest. He told the band to keep playing, left the stage briefly, then returned, pale, eyes wide, finishing the show seated on a stool. At first, the incident was blamed on a pinched nerve. 2 nights later, at the Hurricane Festival in Schiesel, Germany, he powered through a full set, delivering a version of Heroes that guitarist Earl Slick would later call one of his finest. But as the lights dimmed and the crowd faded, Bowie collapsed backstage. The diagnosis was clear: a blocked artery. He was rushed to Hamburg for emergency angioplasty. The tour was over. There would be no more shows. It felt like a final step away. Mike Garson, Bowie's longtime keyboardist, remembered a conversation from the road. 3/4 through the tour, Bowie turned to him and said, "After this tour, I'm just going to be a father and live a normal life." It was not a moment of defeat, but a quiet vow. The reality tour had spanned over 100 shows, grossing tens of millions, but the cost was clear. Bowie kept his word. No more world tours, no more endless cycles of public performance. Financially, he was insulated in a way few artists could imagine. Back in 1997, Bowie had securitized his future royalties, raising $55 million through the now legendary Bowie bonds. This deal meant he never had to tour again to support himself. The machinery of celebrity could keep spinning, but Bowie had built an escape hatch. After the heart scare, he retreated to New York, living quietly, focused on family and private art. The decision was not just about health, it was the culmination of a pattern, a final deliberate withdrawal from the stage. On January 8, 2013, David Bowie's 66th birthday, a new single appeared online without warning. The song was "Where Are We Now?" and it came with news of a full album the next day, already complete and set for release. There had been no rumors, no press leaks, no promotional hints. Even in an era of constant surveillance, Bowie managed to keep the project secret for nearly 2 years, a quiet statement of secrecy. Producer Tony Visconti later described walking through New York, listening to unreleased tracks, knowing he was carrying a secret that could set the music world alight. Every musician, engineer, and studio staffer involved had signed strict non-disclosure agreements. Sessions took place behind locked doors, sometimes under code names, with musicians arriving at odd hours. The album's cover, a defaced version of Bowie's own Heroes artwork, felt like a wink to those who remembered his past reinventions. But there was no interview circuit, no televised comeback. The work spoke for itself. 3 years later, on January 8, 2016, Bowie repeated the pattern. Black Star arrived on his 69th birthday, its sound jagged and experimental, its lyrics haunted by mortality. Again, the process was shrouded in secrecy. Musicians like Donnie McCaslin recalled being told almost nothing about the project's context, only that Bowie was present, focused, and insistent on privacy. Tony Visconti enforced the same rules: non-disclosure agreements, isolated sessions, no leaks. Just 2 days after Black Star's release, news broke that Bowie had died following an 18-month struggle with cancer, an illness he had kept private from the world. The timing was unmistakable. Bowie's final act was not a retreat, but a carefully orchestrated farewell. Silence in his hands became the ultimate form of authorship. In an era obsessed with endless visibility, Bowie's withdrawal stands as quiet rebellion. Silence, too, can be an act of authorship. For artists and audiences alike, his legacy is a reminder. Sometimes the final word is knowing when to step away. Thanks for watching.